I call myself a brand chaperone. I take care of your brand from the moment it leaves your factory to the moment it's picked up by the customer in their basket. So the 2% is the exciting bit where we do the math, where we do the theory, where we see possibilities, where we dream. But the big job is here. How do you make your strategy make sense on the ground? Once you do that, you have a relationship, you have a good margin, then your product is at the distributor point. Have we sold that product yet? Yeah? We haven't. We have just moved the warehouse location. Who was ahead when they started the race? Jamaica, right? And the best company is not the one with the best strategy. It is the one with the best execution. 2% versus 98%. I did not get to say the two words that describe me. And when we were saying the two words that describe us, what I noticed is we didn't say the words that describe us. We said the words that we feel are important for us as salespeople. So relationships, I had relationships a lot. I had numbers, I had targets. How does targets describe you as a salesperson? I had resilience, that was a good one. But the things that really define us as salespeople are the things from within. When you stand up as a salesperson, what do you call yourself? What do you introduce yourself as? For me, the words that describe me is a brand chaperone. I take care of your brand from the moment it leaves your factory to the moment it's picked up by the customer in their basket. So I call myself a brand chaperone. I call myself and my team the brand chaperones. So welcome this morning. It's amazing to see you. It's amazing to see some faces I know. And thank you so much for this opportunity to speak about my story. Now, I am born of a teacher, so I teach by something. And then I would like to tell my story a little bit. So I'll tell a story and then I'll teach a little bit. It's things we know just to refresh our minds about the market and how we go about our day-to-day. So, as David said, some of us are in sales by chance, by mistake, by relationship, by connection, there is always a story about how someone ends up in sales. I was supposed to be a pharmacist, but I did not become a pharmacist. And then I studied computer science. I was supposed to be a computer scientist, but then again, I am not a computer scientist. But that led to my sales journey. After I studied computer science, I got hired as a data analyst at a back office of a sales department. That was my first encounter with sales. So I analyzed data. There is a weird relationship between data analysts and salespeople. We can either be very good friends or very bad enemies because we analyze good things and bad things. We analyze how you go to work. We analyze how much you sell. We analyze how many customers you're seeing and those that you're not seeing. We see who's really getting the job done and who's just chilling and joyriding. So there's that relationship with sales and data analysts that is a bit complicated. So I did that for 4 years. But within that period, I got to interact with a lot of sales reps, sales managers, team leads, and all these people. And then it came a time where during a management meeting, we said there are some people that are really doing a good job in the sales department, and some others that are just not doing very well. So, how do we reward the people that are doing a good job and encourage those that are slacking to pick up the pace? So, we had a HR manager that had an interest in sales and how salespeople work. This is where now relationships come in. This has been mentioned quite a bit. So, this is where relationships start. Head of HR picks an interest in a sales department and how it's working and says, let's develop an incentive scheme to reward the people that are doing a good job. So, as the data analyst, we sit down. There was no AI, there was no CRM. It was us and an Excel sheet and some fancy formulas. So we sat down, developed the first incentive scheme that was used to reward the salespeople that did well. At the back office, we sit, we analyze, and we tell people, we call them, hey, you have done so much, you're at 80%. If you speak to this client and sell this product in this SKU, you're going to meet your targets. And we call them and we direct them and we tell them what to do to make their sales and to meet their targets. And it started happening. People are meeting their targets, sales are growing, and people are earning incentives. And you know, as salespeople, you earn incentives, you're happy, but you are as good as your last sale. The next month, we're at it again. And we start from day one, week 2, week 3, week 4, make sure we are meeting our targets. Then we realized in the back office, salespeople have started earning incentives. The support staff, we are still at our normal rates. So we call you, we tell you your targets are lacking, we tell you which customer to sell to, how to sell. You meet your target, you get your reward, and we are like, Sisi ni support staff. There is no way to measure what we have done to help. So it got me thinking, I want to be one of those guys. I want to make some of that money. But then again, there are other functions that were supporting these sales teams to meet their targets. We had outsourced agencies, outsourced marketers, outsourced ATL agencies, and we were managing them as well. So we would train them, they would bring their presentations as we do, and we'd see there's something that is missing in the field. We know exactly what the customer, the client, or the distributor, or the manufacturer wants as feedback from the market. How is my product doing? Who is buying this product? How much of it have you been able to influence at the point of sale? So we did this for a while. But we realized that there was a gap between the data that we are collecting from the market through our agencies and what we really needed at the back office. So my friend and I sat and wondered, we have trained these people over and over and over again, but we're still getting the kind of data that is not really useful to us. And the next question was, how difficult would it be to do this and just do it right? That is how I found myself into the agency business. So I left employment after working for 4 years and went to run an agency. That was in the year 2008, 17 years ago. So I have been in the agency business for 17 years. It has changed a lot between then and now. People have changed how work is done, how merchandising is done, how in-store activations are done. I'm so glad that Tradco is here. I appreciate you. Those are my competitors. Tuko tu sawa. So thank you so much for being here. You know how it's like to be in the market. You know how it's like to be the face of a brand that you did not make, that you did not brand, but you have to represent and make it seen and make it preferred by the customers in the ground. So today, we're going to talk a little bit about the last mile. How do we define the last mile? How do we get to the last mile? Where do we start? Because we say before you go to the last mile, you must have started somewhere, which is the first mile. So, from my perspective, what is the first mile? And how many miles are in between the first and the last mile? Okay? So, when we look at the first mile, now this is me being the teacher, and the last mile, there are products, there are services that have a very short journey between the first and the last mile. Technology and social media has even shortened that even further. So the first mile, for example, you're living from Westlands going to JKI. You take the expressway and it's not that long. But if you're living here, driving to Kisumu, it's going to take you longer. Same case with a brand story. Between the time it's manufactured and the time it gets to the customer, it's different. So when we talk about the first mile, I'm going to look at it from two angles. One, how we get from the first to the last mile, and what we actually need to win at the last mile. Because if we lose at the first mile, or we lose in the miles in between, we cannot win in the last mile. Makes sense? So the first mile does not really concern the salesperson at all. The first mile concerns the manufacturer or the importer or the person that ideates the birth of that product or the birth of that service. So when you are deciding to bring up a product, what should you first consider? I don't know if there are people in the room that are ideators or importers, or you have a product of your own that you're not selling on behalf of someone. Anyone? All right. So that means we are all selling somebody else's product. It was not your product. It was not your idea. You got here, it was here, figure out how it gets to my consumer. But the people that made this product had an idea in mind. Who was it being made for? Okay? So I am going to play you a video clip that is going to start us off. It will start us off and we will end with it just to see how these miles interconnect to make sure that we win in the last mile. Sam? All right. What did we see in that clip? Anybody? I'll call the names I know. Finley, what did we see? No, exactly what we saw. What did we see? Perfect. A relay. What happened at the relay up to that position? Say that again. Speed. Okay. So there was a rally. You saw a stick. What did you see? A lady that wants to run very fast. She took off, right? Awesome. So,
the final of the women's.
We're going to stop it there for now at the lady that decided she wants to take off. Okay? Now, as we have said, we are going to examine this sales journey in 3 steps: the first mile, the miles in between, and the last mile. When we talk about the first mile, we want to talk about the ideation process of the product or of the service. When you're developing the idea, it's exciting. We do the theory and the math is amazing and the numbers look great. And we say Kenya has 50 million people. If we convert 10% of these people, we have 5 million buying our products. And if 5 million buy our product, it costs 2,000 shillings. And we make mathematics about how much money we are going to make. But reality kwa ground, how many of those people will actually buy your product? So the 2% is the exciting bit where we do the math, where we do the theory, where we see possibilities, where we dream. But the big job is here. How do you make your strategy make sense on the ground? Okay? So all the things we are going to talk about today are the 98% of the things that make us win and realize the dream and the excitement of the strategy. Okay? Now, when you're doing your ideation, I realize this is not really for us. It's for the person that is developing the product or the service that they want to sell. Most of the people that ideate these products or these services go to, for example, if you're importing, go to your sourcing country, say China, bring a product, then figure out where to sell this product. But a winning strategy would be the one that starts from the market. What is the need in the market? What do people need? How do they want it packaged? How do they want it presented to them? How do they want to experience your product? So first thing you do is do a market research, figure out the need, the actual need, not the theory, the actual need in the market. And once you do that and understand the market, then you design and test your product. You test it different markets, different demographics, different pack sizes, different fields, all of that. And once you're satisfied, then you execute. Because when you do a miscalculation here, your product fails, both in the first mile and in the other miles all the way to the end. And this is the reason a sales team will either prosper or suffer in the market. Okay? Now, the miles in between can be 2 miles, can be 2 million miles. But the system is the same. If you're moving 2 miles or you're moving 22,000, 2 million miles, it's the same. And one key thing that I have realized we have in this room are people that understand relationships are key in the miles in between. So if you don't create your relationships, it gets difficult to win in the last mile. So assuming the first mile is perfect, your product, you've done your market research, you've tested your product, you've launched it, and it's a perfect product for the market it is meant for the demographic it's meant for. Then you need to move this product from yourself to a system that moves it closest to your consumer. And this, for most FMCG products, we do through distributors, wholesalers, retailers, and the sales teams. So when we talk about wholesalers, distributors, retailers, sales teams, all these are people. A lot of managers work with the assumption that distributors are warehouses that are open to every product. But why would a distributor or a wholesaler, a retailer, pick your product over 15 other sales reps that have walked into that distribution point seeking to have their product listed? Why would they pick yours? Okay? These are the questions that we need to ask. And the answer is simple. There are three things that distributors, retailers, and wholesalers look at. The first is the margin of your product. How much money am I making from you? Or am I even making money from your product? The second would be, is this product selling as fast compared to other products that solve the same problem or complement in the same category as your product? And then, what kind of relationship do you have with these distributors? Do you have with these wholesalers? So, if your product is making them money, but it's not fast moving, what happens? They're selling one piece, making a big margin, not selling enough to make a good profit. So, they're going to replace it with something else. If your product is fast moving, but the margins are too small, then they incur a lot of costs in logistics, in moving the product, and then again, it doesn't make sense. So you have to make sure that the margins are right, the product is moving properly, and you create a relationship at that point to ensure that that you are actually building the business of your distributor. When you come to the distributor's point, talk to them like you care about their business, not about your brand. So when you come in, say, I'm selling pens, they are going to make you this much money, and this is how we are going to support you to make more business from selling our product. Make sense? So once you do that, you have a relationship, you have a good margin, then your product is at the distributor point. Have we sold that product yet? Yeah? We haven't. We have just moved the warehouse location, moved it from the manufacturer's warehouse to the distributor's warehouse. So, how do we move it then from the distributor's warehouse to where it's supposed to be consumed? And there are two channels mostly that we use. Lately, there is the direct sales that is picking up quite a bit, and the online selling. But for most FMCG products, we move it either through the modern trade or through the GT, the general trade. Modern trade are our Carrefours, our Quick Marts, our Naivases. And then these are the ways that we want to partner to make sure that that product moves from the warehouse of the distributor to the final consumer. So the people that will be key to push that product from the distributor is the channel partners. What kind of activations or support are you giving them? And how do you manage the inventory so that they either don't run out or they do not overstock? And then we have us, the sales force. How do we make sure that we are pushing this brand from our manufacturers to these places? And then, of course, the merchandising support. There is a notion that merchandising is decorative work. True or lie? We make products look pretty on the shelf. But when you go to a supermarket, for example, don't you buy the ones that are prettily done? Like if there's just one piece on the shelf, si utaishuku? Like, why is it just one piece? Is it expiring? When was the last time it was placed? But when you come in and Tradco has done a beautifully done a block display, looking all nice, prices well done, you will be attracted to it. So beyond making this product look pretty, it is the point of revenue conversion for a lot of brands in the modern trade. So remember what I told you: margin, movement, and relationships. The people that carry this are the regional sales managers to create relationships with the key channel partners. And then the field sales executives will pick that up, drop it one notch down, and create relationships with wholesalers and the smaller GT outlets. Then you have a good merchandising team that's taking care of your hypers and your supermarkets and some other retail stores where they merchandise. So these relationships need to be owned by somebody. All of us want to make good relationships with the outlets, but who's owning the relationship at what level? Okay? Now, we go to the most important mile. We have had an amazing product, customers like it. We have pushed it to the distribution point, to the retail store. Has that product been sold? Has that product been sold? We have done a lot of work. First mile, we have done a lot of work. The miles in between, but we are yet to make a sale. All that hard work now converts in the third mile. Now, at the modern trade, how do you convert the product into revenue? Here are our pretty shelves. What do we want to achieve at the shelf? Number one, we want to be here. Because if we are not here, we are not here, we are not selling, right? We want to be seen. And we want to be picked. Okay? So we are here. You can see us. Please buy. That's the job of a merchandiser. We don't want to be ignored. There are products you will find in a shelf, but there is one of those pillars, and there are still products behind the pillar, right? We are here, but we can't be seen. But there's work to be done to make sure that you're not ignored. What reason does the outlet have not to ignore your brand? Give them a reason to give you priority. Damages. How is the product being handled? The reason we call our merchandisers brand chaperones is because their work does not start at the shelf. It starts from the receiving bay. How is this product being handled? How can we reduce losses for our clients, make sure that we are not damaging their products? We do not want our products to expire, or even worse, be recalled because there is a damage, there is an expiry, the product is not moving. Like, these are the things we take care of to win at the empty shelf, right? Tradco ni ukweli? Very good. Now, when your product is there, what effort are you making to differentiate it from the rest of the products on the shelf? We create customer experiences. Let the customer experience, touch, feel, and then figure out if they really want to buy your products. Okay? And then, of course, as they buy, sweet talk them to, as they experience it, sweet talk them to buy and convert it into revenue. Same thing, just inform, educate, convert. When you have a new product on the shelf, talk to them, introduce it, make them understand it. So this is the most structured way of converting in the last mile, after we've designed the product, after we have done the miles in between. Modern trade is the structured, easier way of converting revenue for our clients. This part of the business is where it requires the salesperson most. It's not easy. GT is a mess. The structures are all over the place, but we make it work, right? When we go to the general trade, what we do not want is your product being out of stock. Biggest crime in GT. If you are not there, you lose immediately, not tomorrow, not next week or next month. Immediately, your competitor wins, because there is close to no brand loyalty in this channel. What do they look at? Availability. The next thing they look at, affordability. And the next thing they look at is consistency of your brand. So if your brand is missing, you lose out big time in GT. But then how do we make it such that we win in these places? First, like we did with the modern trade, make sure that your product is present and they can see it and they can interact with it. Make sure that the product is available. This is how you support your distributor to move your product from his warehouse to either the retailer's store or the consumer's basket. Okay? Make noise about your brand. If we don't know it, we can't buy it. We don't see it, we can't buy it. Make as much noise as you can. Hence, the road shows, the seeding, branded vans, everything. Make noise. So when they see it, they're attracted to it. When you pull a crowd at a marketplace and they experience your product, they will want to buy. And once you pull people together, there is the influence, even in adults, to buy what someone else is buying, to try out what someone else is trying. So when you're doing this, engage as many consumers and resellers as you can. So you have done your first mile, you've done your miles in between, we've come to GT, and this is how we optimize at the GT level. How many sales managers are here? Area sales managers? Regional sales managers? Hatuna kuona. So we draw route plans for our people, right? When you draw your route plan, how do you do it? Okay? It's easy when you're doing it for modern trade because shops on Langata Road are shops on Langata Road, right? So you give them that and that's it. But when you're drawing routes for GT, how do you make sure that there is proximity of those outlets, but then again, they have some weight to them? How do we make sure we are not wasting time covering unproductive routes? Okay? So when you're doing your analysis, how do you make sure that the proximity of your outlets also factor in the weight of how much product you're pushing through the outlets? How frequently you want that outlet to be visited? How much time you want your reps to spend in that outlet? And how do you optimize your CRM to collect the data you need to make your decisions? So we need to tie all this together when you're doing your route plans, when you're sending out your people, to make sure that we're getting all the value that we can get from our time and from our resources. All right, what gets measured? What gets measured? So we go work, and then what? There's a question I like to ask when I'm training my teams. In a forest, if a tree fell, sorry, nobody saw the tree fall. Nobody had the tree fall. Did that tree fall? Yeah? If the tree fell, no one had it fall. No one saw it fall. Did that tree fall? Does the falling of that tree affect anyone except the birds that were on that tree? Can any decision be made based on that tree falling? Yeah? No. So if you work and you don't measure your journey, it makes it very difficult for you to actually know if you're growing or declining. True or false? So what do we measure in terms of the last mile? Different things at different stages of our sales process. The first mile, as I said, may not affect us much, but there are things that we measure in this first mile that affect both the miles in between and the last mile. If you look at it, consumer demographics, competitor analysis, differentiation, pricing, and all that, when you look at something like pricing, for example, if we get the pricing wrong at the first mile, will it not affect us in these other 2 miles? Yeah? So we make sure that when we are checking price effectiveness or what differentiates our product from the rest of them, it is something that is going to help us build relationships with our distributors, track our sales performance, and get feedback at every level to make sure that the cycle is aligned. So when you look at price effectiveness here, it's reflected here in trade promotions effectiveness, and then it's represented here in price clarity. Price clarity could be looked at in 2 ways. We can see the product, we can see how much it costs, right? But sometimes, especially in the modern trade, we find that one price appears on the shelf and a different price at the till. So you need to tie in the clarity of your price all the way to the checkout point. All right? And then once you measure, what do you do with that information? So you've worked, you've tracked your metrics, you interpret in a way that every level of your staff can understand. And then you take action and you repeat the cycle. All right? So these are ways that we get to grow our businesses by knowing what's going on in the sales department. So finally, when all these 3 phases align, the first mile will create for you direction. Yeah? The miles in between will give you momentum. And the last mile will create your revenue. So as a salesperson, find a way to plug into every phase. And the best company is not the one with the best strategy. It is the one with the best execution. 2% versus 98%.
Oh, the final of the women's 4x100.
So, sorry. We want to see how this race ended. and who won and why. Okay? Sorry. Could you play that?
Let's go. The final of the women's 4x1
All of it.
100-meter relay.
The USA can see Jamaica early in this race. The first two passes have been made. Jamaica and the US down the back stretch.
Look at Shelly Ann Fraser-Price go. But it's a good run from TT Terry.
She has held her own, but now the Jamaicans have taken the lead. It's up to Gabby Thomas to close the gap.
Gabby Thomas up against Shasha Lee Forbes. Thomas gets the lead, gives it to Sha'Carri Richardson. Here comes Sharika Jackson. It's Sha'Carri and Sharika. The USA in front. Nobody's catching Sha'Carri Richardson. It's gold for the United States.
Who was ahead when they started the race? Jamaica, right? Where did Jamaica lose the race? Is it in the first mile? In the middle? Where did they lose? The last mile. So they figured out their first mile, they figured out their middle, and the person that was supposed to convert was and they lost at the last mile. So it is key that as much as our directors and our managers give us all the support that we require in the first mile, and in the miles in between, we take the baton and run as hell and convert in our last mile. Okay? And as the father of sales said, our department is not the whole company, but the whole company better be the sales department. We are the backbone of every organization. If they do not sell, nobody's getting paid. But are we treated as the most important department? Yeah? We are not. So it is the job of David and the rest of us to create such big importance in the sales department that we stop being ignored, that we start being treated as the most important department of the organization. Thank you very much.